Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 pre-record show. I'm your host, GameChanger. Okay, so you see it on your screen, you've seen the title, and you know what this is about. Eboni K Williams, she decided to say something a little different than all the stuff that she was saying before, and that is that women should prioritize relationships while in college. And this is a very unique and original idea coming from Ebony K. Williams. And the only problem with this unique and original idea is that it's not unique or original. You see, there's a woman by the name of Susan Patton who wrote a book called Marriage My Choice. Let's see, Not by Chance. Or excuse me, Marry by Choice, Not by Chance. And basically, she says the same thing years ago. I think it was like 2013 or something like that, 10 years ago at least, where she was saying that young women should look for women in college and that there will never be a higher concentration of women than the ones in university. Or, excuse me, there'll never be a higher concentration of men, eligible bachelors, than the ones in college, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is a white woman. She went to Princeton, and she's older, but she also regrets not making that decision when she was younger. So Ebony K. Williams, a person who really don't seem to have any desire to get married now, and she probably didn't in the past, even though she was married, she didn't have a desire to sustain it. She just looked for marriage for what it can do for her, just like she's looking for children for what they can do for her right now. But she decided to take Susan Patton's idea and make it hers. Make it sound as if she thought of it, because to Black people who really compartmentalize their education, we learn a lot of things from a different pool. We have a different pool of knowledge in a lot of things. We have different sources of information, and she seems to be a source of information to Black women that is different than Susan Patton. And we do that a lot. We take something someone else said and pass it to our own as if we are the originators. She is not the originator of this concept. But let's take a listen to what she has to say. Fair use, fair use.
I'm starting today's sidebar with a hot take. I unequivocally believe and advocate for young Black women to adopt this MRS degree mentality. Yeah, I said it. Now, it bucks the traditional teachings of us avoiding boys until we are so-called established. But what no one tells us as young Black women matriculating on America's college campuses is that for these 4 years, or maybe 7 or 8, depending on whether or not you pursue graduate or professional studies, well, this will be the last time that you will be in such a concentrated space with this many presumably available men of projected equal educational and financial positioning. And if
Okay. There is some truth in that. The real world, adulthood, don't get a bunch of people in the same age bracket together and just mush them together like that and force them to spend time with each other each and every single day. Like the companies that you work for, the companies that anybody work for, typically is staggered. If you're 30, chances are the person sitting next to you is not going to be 30 as well. And the same with their 40s, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, in college, most everybody, at least 70 to 80% of the campus is between 18 and 22. So, yeah, there is truth in that. Let's continue.
If you desire to marry a Black man, as the vast majority of Black women do, this is even more so the case. And this is...
It's not really more so the case. At any university, they put the young people together always. And you see, this is what I'm talking about. She has really no loyalty or allegiance or anything like that to Black people, Black couples, Black families, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reason why she made this a Black thing is to separate it from Susan Patton. This is like, okay, she's speaking to white women and I'm speaking to Black women. But my message hits harder because it's a greater urgency amongst Black women. It's a stronger alarm amongst Black women. And that's so Black women just don't go to, as they should have at least 10 years ago, to Susan Patton and listen to her. She's like, okay, I want you to listen to me for the same knowledge that you would have gotten from her. Is essentially what she's doing.
This is exactly where this whole idea starts to get really complicated, right? See, culturally, our society has shifted a bit from stigmatizing men who choose to be forever bachelors. These middle-aged single men are no longer punished by way of being kept out of prestigious companies or leadership roles. I mean, we literally have a 63-year-old, single, never been married, heterosexual Black man as the mayor of New York City.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at what she revealed about herself and the plurality of modern women. She's basically like, you need to be punished for being single. That society wants punishment for being single by denying them advancements in life, advancements in promotions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they no longer do that. So now they're not getting, really? How about incentivizing men to get married? Who thinks like that? Like, fellas, really stop and ask yourself, who thinks like that? A person who don't plan to offer anything in a marriage, in a relationship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, oh yeah, so they're no longer punished for not getting married. See, men were never really punished for not getting married. I mean, sure, there was the promotion thing, but the whole reason that companies did that is because this person needs the security and he's more stable. Was the thinking by it. It wasn't to punish him like, oh no, you're a bachelor. We're not. It's really a married guy seems to be more stable. He has a sense of commitment, and his sense of commitment to a woman would extend to a family, would extend to the company. So it was really incentivizing marriage versus punishing those who are not married. But she misses that world. She misses the world where you can just say, yeah, you got to marry me. You see, here's the difference, the fundamental difference between a lot of Black women and a lot of non-Black women. Non-Black women tend to want men to want them. Black women want men to need them. That's why you hear terms coming from them like it's cheaper to keep her, or I don't need a man, which is their way of saying that, I don't need you, but you need me. If you leave, I'm going to call my probation officer. I'm going to call your probation officer and send you back to jail. If you leave, I'm going to get my cousin to shoot up the block. They want you to have to be with them, not want to be with them. That's the fundamental difference. They trap you with babies. How many of them do you see on Maury? Child support. child support. And sometimes they find an impoverished man and leverage that on him. We've already talked about on this channel how they like to leverage the box on them. They keep men with little to no income sleeping on the couch. Can't leave. If he leaves, he's homeless. They like having that power over him. Just as she likes having the power to say, I can stunt your advancement. I can stunt your socioeconomic advancement in life. She misses that power. That's what we're dealing with, people. Hit the like button.
Right now. And there's another one just like him. He happens to be 54, and he's serving in the U.S. Senate. So listen, I can understand, very understand, how a black man who is successful and educated would not be greatly incentivized to hurry up and put a ring on any woman's finger by the time he walks across a college graduation stage.
It's up to you to give the incentive. If a man is not incentivized to marry, then that is the failure of the woman. It is the woman's duty to incentivize the man. If somebody was to say, they're not really incentivized. If I have like a small shop or something and people aren't working or the employees aren't staying to work at my shop, it means that I'm not paying them enough or treating them nice enough. And if I was to look to society and say, you know something, people aren't forcing people to work anymore. You know, kind of like when slavery ended. Like they're not incentivized anymore. We need to no, you need to incentivize them. What incentives do you offer? I mean, you're a woman, you should figure it out. I never was capable of seducing a man, at least I hope not. What incentives do you offer? You know that you, as a former pageant winner, can incentivize a man to marry you. You did. Now, I wasn't strong enough to keep him, but that's for another conversation.
The reality that needs to be said out loud is that as black men age, their desirability increases. Thus, their optionality of women is always expanding. And the exact opposite is true for black women. As we age, doesn't.
Again, she's making this a black thing when it's really just a man-woman thing. But she wants to corner the market that's left because for whatever reason, black women don't listen to white women directly. Unless they're telling them to go against black men.
No matter how much money we accumulate, our degrees or professional accolades, the reality is that our marriage and partnership market value is depreciating with every passing year. No matter how good we look, no matter how fit we are, men are still seeing primarily our presumed dwindling fertility as a knock against us. And speaking of fertility, that is another reason that I want younger black women to seek marriage and partnership in college or right after, if that's what they choose. Because the number of college-educated black men is so low when compared to black college-educated women that we're all going to be targeting the same small pool of men. And as we heard today, on most campuses, there's like 7 black women students for every 1 black man student.
I haven't heard that ever, anywhere, ever. That is ridiculous. Now, I have heard that it does favor women to like 60-40, maybe worst case scenario, 70-30, but not 7-1. That is ridiculous. That's like 83-13 or some crap like that. I don't know. I'm trying to do the math best I can in my head. But yeah, that's something that's ridiculous. It's fear mongering. And it also doesn't make any sense. And here's how. What she's talking about is a bottleneck amongst graduates, people who graduated college. Like, oh yes, it's so many women who graduated college, and it's so few men who graduated college. So you need to do it in college. So you don't have, well, according to you, in college, like on the campus, there's 7 women to 1 man, or excuse me, 1 man. So it's still the bottleneck. It doesn't make sense. And the reason why it's not making sense to you, Ebony, is because it's not your idea. It's poorly researched. The numbers are completely off. But it's not your idea, so it's not really fleshed out properly. We're talking about pit together. And then let's talk about this whole college thing. The fact that black women want a college educated man, it really shows how in the culture of black women there is a delayed adaptation to time, to changes in time. Okay, hear me out for a second. I was there for the 80s. And in the 80s, college was the thing to do. It was like the ultimate um way to advance from whatever socioeconomic status your parents were into a whole new realm. And there was this whole perception that you go to high school, you graduate, and you go to college, and no matter what you get your degree in, you will start life somewhere either in middle management or above middle management, and you will continue to grow from there just by virtue of have gone to college. That was the perception, and it really didn't matter, what university that you went to. Harvard is the same as, I don't know, your local, as DeVry. It really didn't matter. As long as you had a degree, it put you in the top 10% of earners. Excuse me. And this was a perception placed on black people from the previous generation where that was true. But things change. And that's because very few people had degrees back then. And a degree was the difference between a working class person, meaning a person who is not in a leadership position, versus one who is in a leadership position. Say you work in a factory, a person could walk in with their college degree with no knowledge of the factory itself or the inner workings of whatever they're producing. They could just walk in with the degree and say, yes, I'm in charge now. That's an okay business model, even though I don't agree with it, but it's okay if and only if few people are going to college. Once you start shelling out student loans, all these scholarships, and a bunch of other things that make so many people get a college degree, then it's like, okay, if we gave these supervisor positions to everybody with a college degree, then there will be no one to supervise. And especially now, because you have the invention of the internet made obtaining college degrees in certain majors extremely easy. So say like, oh, I got a degree in history. I got a degree in history. A person can right now just go online, and I'd say maybe like in 4 days, if they really just watched a bunch of YouTube videos, in 4 days, in 48 hours consistently. In 48 consistent hours, they can have all of the information that a person in the 80s would have gotten from university. So, and also it's college used to be a thing. It used to be for the kid that learned Latin when he was 9 years old. And but now it's just pretty much for anybody that can Google and use Chat GPT to write a paper, or and Grammarly to check the grammar on the paper. And you can do 10 papers a day, but they only want 3 papers an entire half year, an entire semester. It's not the same accomplishment as it is. So many as it used to be. So many people are now getting these degrees that they have become almost completely useless, except to black women, because they're still in that 80s mindset. And they still think that the great divide between the haves and the have-nots is a college education, even though they're keenly aware that they know people, both men and women, who have college degrees and they're still not haves. And they also are keenly aware of people who don't have college degrees and they are haves. They understand this, but they can't break it. And the reason why is because if not that, then what? When somebody sells you a easy pass, a easy way out, or an easy way in, and then you find out that that doesn't work, it's like, then what? For example, if somebody was to say, hey, if you eat this pill every day for 30 days, you will lose 50 pounds. And then you say to yourself, oh, okay, I'll do that. That's easy. So you do it and you don't lose the 50 pounds. Some people would just say, okay, this pill is bogus. I'm not going to eat this pill anymore. But some people will continue to eat that pill and actually tell themselves that they're losing weight. And the reason why is because the alternative is that they would have to diet and exercise otherwise. That there isn't an easy fix. Now, black men know it, but then again, most other men know it. Like most men know it. That's why the numbers are lopsided as far as women in university versus men. Men understand that, you know, a history degree is not going to get me as far as an electrician's apprenticeship, financially speaking. It's not going to get me as far as if I as it as it would if I were to enroll into the police academy or become a firefighter or work in construction. There are guys right now, and I know California is a whole different animal, but bear with me. There are guys right now who are holding stop signs for when the construction workers are laying down tar and stuff that are getting near six figures for doing that. They're getting paid more than many people who went to college for sociology, criminal justice. And, don't be offended if this is your major, but I think that you probably know that there isn't much opportunity in those majors. So, and I'm just throwing some out there. I'm not going to throw out pre med or anything like that, but you know, Needless to say, it's not the catch-all that they think it is. And it should not hold the status. It should not be the status symbol in their mind that they want it to be. But it is.
Y'all do the math. So here's my advice. If you are a young Black woman in college and you know in your heart and in your head that you want to prioritize family, I suggest that you simultaneously pursue that MRS degree right along with that BA or JD. Because the handful of Black college age men that actually do desire to get married soon, and they do share that value system, and family is a priority for them too, y'all, that is an incredibly small pool, and it's shrinking as you get older.
Okay. Now it's the men that lack priorities. See, this is why it's a Black twist, because apparently we're not trying hard enough. And I always ask women, especially women like this, especially women who are pageant winners, who's decent looking now, but I'm sure was extraordinary in her 20s. How many guys have you rejected versus guys that rejected you? It's clear which side the effort is on. But she's just going to go out and say, oh, yeah, they're just not as interested. What? Women nowadays modern women are ghosting, missing dates, missing appointments, turning down guys. I'm not talking about just turning down guys who slide into their DMs and stuff like that, even though they turn down potential husbands all the time. How many times have y'all heard women brag and say, I had several marriage proposals? See, this is the lie that she's spewing. Suzanne Patton, she didn't do that. She's just like, no, it is prudent of you to look for guys when you're younger. First of all, you are at your peak fertility and beauty, and therefore you have more tools to seduce and sustain a relationship than you do later in life.
And by the time you reach my age, 40, you will be faced with different choices relating to life partnership and motherhood. Now, I'm not saying that delaying marriage or motherhood is a bad option, but it's one that comes with its own consequences.
I'm not saying delaying marriage and motherhood is a bad option. It is a bad option. Whenever you procrastinate on something that there is an unknown time limit to, then you will be late. You almost certainly will be late. If somebody says, hey, if you don't cash that lottery ticket, if you don't bring us this lottery ticket in by X, by an unknown date, the lottery ticket will be null and void. If somebody says that and you don't bring that ticket as soon as possible, then what transpires after that is on you. Yes, do it in a timely manner. And you got to ask yourself, what are the young women waiting for? Well, they're waiting because they feel that it's more fun being single. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's nothing that the men are doing. Being single is never going to be as fun for a man who is a man as it is for a woman who is playing the game as a man. Tell you what I mean by that. Women who is experiencing single life as a woman pretending to be a man. And that is she's on the CC, she's going out to nightclubs, seeing if she could get some. Yeah, that's a game that's pretty easy for you to win. I mean, don't get me wrong, for men, it's a greater thrill of the chase because you can actually lose. But yeah, it's definitely more fun. And for you, most of the time it's free. You just walk into the nightclub and you walk out with some penis. And they buy you drinks in the process. So it is better for you in the sense that you will win that game versus any man, most any man, unless Boris Kojo just walks in place or something like that. But yeah, generally speaking, you're going to win that all the time. I don't think that game is really fun to you. But I do think that society has taught you that you're not having fun unless you play that game. You're not YOLOing. You're not living your best life. You only live once. You're not living your best life if you don't do that. In fact, there was a woman who just said, like, black women should go through a whole phase. So that's what they're doing with that time. I mean, in addition to college, which really it should not be difficult to. I mean, that's really like a chewing gum and walking at the same time thing. You can be in a relationship and be in college. People do it all the time.
And our women deserve to know on the front end of their decision making instead of on the back half. Oh, and one more thing. This MRS degree is not foolproof. There's a lot that can go wrong when you get married at 23 years old, including divorce and other problems. So the takeaway is simply this. Just know as much as you can about the marriage marketplace and your current and your future positioning in it so that you can make the best and most informed decision for you and your most true priorities.
Okay. So that's the end of that. Let me stop right there. Now, probably right after this show, right after this recording, right after the premiere of this, I'm going to go live and I'm going to give some of the women's reaction, some of the younger women's reactions to this. So stay tuned for that because the thinking, once again, when I say not dynamic, I mean when times change, they're not really changing with the time as far as the degree thing and as far as other things. They were taught a lot of things about how to manipulate a man into getting with them because once again, they don't want the men to want them. They need the men to need them. So they are using tactics to fabricate that need and to instill that into the male population using tactics that I go over in this channel all the time. That's what's going on with that. And even though this is a failing tactic, they will still continue to do it because it's the only tactic that they have thus far. Just like they actually are in university and they look around and they know that it's not 7 black women to 1 black man. They know this. They know that when they go to like a Kappa party or Alpha party or AKA party or something like that, they know that when they go to a black fraternity or sorority party, it's not 7 to 1. I mean, I'm long removed from college, but I wish I went to I wish I went to a party and there was 7 to 1. No, it's never 7 to 1 ever. But they can observe that it is not 7 to 1 and still, for whatever reason, walk away with that number in their head. Not paying attention to their surroundings is what's getting them in this situation. Now, do I agree with Ebony, Ebony's advice? Absolutely. Women should definitely do that. And they, furthermore, should not just limit themselves to guys that are in college. They should expand the net, get out of this 80s thinking and expand the net in various different directions. And they should also consider dating older, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think many of them do. So I shouldn't even throw that in there. But I agree with the advice when Susan Patton gave it because she didn't put all this extra crap. She didn't say, you should look for guys in college. She was saying you should look for guys while you are in college. What Ebony seems to be insinuating is that you should look for guys who are in college with you, preferably the same university that you just so happen to be in. That's ridiculous. All right, make sure you hit that like button if you like the show. Also, make sure that you consider hitting the Cash App and Super Chats if you like the show. And I'd like to thank everybody for participating. This is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.